the Government of Canada has rolled out new funding aimed at assisting in the success and comfort of our newcomers. As always, we'll give you the information you need to know. This is My Consultant. In this week's episode, we're covering new free job training for newcomers. Next, the latest pre-arrival investment, followed by how Canada is modernizing their immigration platform. Stay with us as I explain the funding aimed at housing asylum claimants, as well as share what sparked this Toronto nonprofit organization to help over 200 asylum seekers from living on the streets of Toronto. This week's episode of My Consultant is brought to you by Scotiabank. The Ontario government has announced new funding to provide free job training to new Canadians. The province of Ontario will produce $2.6 million in funding to provide 4 free job training projects to help more than 300 newcomers, including displaced Afghans and Ukrainians, find work. The organizations leading the 4 funded programs aim to provide training in manufacturing, finance, administration, hospitality, communications, and the arts. Participants will have the opportunity to explore a range of employment and training options through paid internships, job placements, language training, and online literacy courses. The programs will be delivered in Ottawa, Toronto, Hamilton, and online. It will also include help with interview skills and resume writing. Pre-arrival settlement services help newcomers successfully transition into their new communities and find work faster in Canada before they even arrive. They provide newcomers with the support and information they need to make informed decisions about their new lives. To help with this operation, Canada is investing over $2 million to JVS Toronto to help deliver pre-arrival settlement services to new immigrants. Newcomers can access information about the Canadian workplace, soft skill development, employment counseling, and services specific to refugees that help them prepare for the jobs in Canada. Investments in pre-arrival services are investments in the newcomers and families joining Canada's diverse communities. To improve the experience of those choosing to work, study, and build their lives in Canada, the federal government is choosing to modernize its immigration platform to help ensure that Canada remains a comfortable destination choice. In order to do this, the Government of Canada has awarded 2 contracts with the initial combined value of $85.4 million to develop the new Client Experience Platform. This platform will provide clients with a more user-friendly interface to access Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada's programs and services. Once fully implemented over the next few years, the new platform will provide the tools and capabilities needed to ensure a seamless client experience, enable the IRCC to personalize services to clients, and replace outdated client-facing portals and tools. Work will begin later this summer. Canada aims to be a welcoming haven for newcomers and asylum seekers. With the ongoing rise of those claiming asylum and not being able to find shelter, the federal government has finally recognized the need for all levels of government to work together to assist in the support and housing of asylum claimants. To address the current need, the Minister of Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship has announced the funding that will ensure impacted communities have the capacity to keep a roof over the vulnerable asylum claimants who want to have Canada's protection. There will be a one-time delivery of approximately $212 million in funding into the IHAP, Interim Housing Assistance Program, which has been extended until March 31st, 2024. This monetary assistance includes about $97 million in funding for the City of Toronto. The IHAP provides funding on a cost-sharing basis to provinces and municipalities for the cost of interim housing for asylum claimants. The funding provided is part of the nearly $700 million already delivered through the program, including the over $215 million for the City of Toronto. In addition to IHAP, the IRCC has been working with severely impacted provinces and municipalities to increase the amount of temporary housing. As of early July, the IRCC had over 3,800 hotel rooms across 6 provinces to provide temporary housing to asylum claimants. The federal government says it will continue to work closely with provinces and municipalities to ensure the support from all levels of government for those seeking refuge in Canada. After witnessing over 200 asylum seekers continuously sleeping in front of Toronto's City Shelter Intake Office amid the prior funding stalemate between the city and the federal government, Ainsworth Morgan, co-founder of 100 Strong Foundation, decided to take action. The 100 Strong Foundation is a nonprofit organization that aims to empower young Black boys to become leaders. The co-founder was quoted by CBC Toronto saying, "As Canadians, the vast majority of us, we all have an immigrant story. Seeing myself in them, I wanted to do something, rather than waiting around and hoping for others." Recognizing there was a lot of what was described as red tape in getting the refugee claimants off the streets, he connected with his 100 Strong organization board to start the philanthropic process. As the refugee claimants that were welcomed into Canada were sleeping on the streets of Toronto, advocates say levels of government were busy pointing fingers at what government was responsible for handling this crisis. Within a matter of days, the 100 Strong Foundation, volunteers, and other leaders from Black-led organizations did what advocates were calling on the Canadian government to do for weeks. Toronto's new mayor, Olivia Chow, mentioned in a statement with CBC Toronto that the Black community organizations have been on the front lines with others addressing the crisis and credited their actions for pushing the governments into action, saying, "I have no doubt the Black Community Housing Advisory Table's rapid work and the work of refugee-serving organizations on the front lines, including the African, Black, and Caribbean organizations, both to support people immediately and raise attention, moved other levels of government to come to the table quickly." On July 14th, the Black Community Housing Advisory Table held a news conference with housing providers, service workers, and advocates to call for the urgent housing of those living outside of 129 Peter Street. According to the city, the number of asylum seekers in Toronto's shelter system grew 500% within a 20-month span. In September of 2021, there was a low number of 530 in the shelter systems per night. By May, that number grew to 2,800. That's all for this week's episode of My Consultant. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please be sure to click the bell icon to subscribe and get notified for our latest posts and episodes. For more information on the topics covered in this week's episode, please visit myconsultant.ca, where you can contact an authorized immigration and citizenship consultant. I am Tashina Thompson, and I'll see you next week.